Welcome to Lesson 8 about the four relationships of our course on logic or mantiq. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma akhrijna min zulumatil wahm wa akrimna binuril fahm. Allahumma aftah alayna abwaaba rahmatik وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Before we embark on our lesson for today, which is about the four relationships, let's have a quick summary of our previous lesson about concept and referent, as well as universal and particular. First, the mental picture of everything in our mind is called concept or mafhūm. Second, what a concept indicates and applies to it is called referent or miṣdāq. Mental image of the sun, therefore, is the concept, and the physical sun outside is its referent. 3. Generally, mental concepts are divided into universal and particular concepts. 4. Universal concepts apply to more than one referent, such as the concepts human, city, capital, the necessary being or wajibul wujud, and partner of the creator. 5. Particular concepts do not apply to more than one referent, such as the concepts Tehran, Kaaba, Iran, Socrates, and Quran. 6. The definition given for particular concept is in fact a definition for a factual particular concept. Logicians have another term for it, that is relative particular or juz'ī idāfi. Let us formally start our discussion on our lesson for today about the four relationships. But before we do so, let us remind ourselves that this is actually the start of the gist, the meat of the subject, the four relationships. So fasten your seatbelt as the discussion is now becoming more complicated, and it needs maybe second or third reading for a sentence to be grasped properly or to be comprehended perfectly. So we will talk about, obviously, the four relationships, the pictorial and symbolic representations of these relationships, and the relationships between contradictories of two universal concepts. Okay, let us first identify the four relationships. If we compare two general concepts regarding their reference, rationally their relationships will be one of the following four. 1. The two concepts never have common reference. Therefore, they have heterogeneous relationship. Heterogeneous relationship. For example, the concepts human and stone. Or the two concepts could have common reference. In the latter case, it means to say, in case the two concepts have common reference, either the concepts have mutual commonality in all reference, or their commonality is not in all of the reference. If the commonality is mutual and in all reference, the relationship between the two concepts will be equality. For example, the concepts human being and rational being. When we say human being, we are actually referring to the rational being, and vice versa. When we say rational being, we are not referring to anything or anybody but human being. If the commonality is not mutual in all reference, it can be either mutual but in some reference, or it is from one side in all of the reference of one concept, and from the other side in some reference of the other concept. I understand that this is, to understand it in its tangible form is at this point in time difficult, but don't worry, because we have also the diagrammatical representation of these four relationships. 3 and 4. Here we will be introduced to the other two relationships. If the commonality is mutual in some reference, the relationship between two concepts will be generality and peculiarity in some respects. And if the commonality is from one side in all reference of one concept, and from the other side in some reference of the other concept, the relationship will be absolute universality and particularity. Yes, I understand. At this point in time, we are talking about things which are very abstract. But don't worry, there will be the diagrammatical representation as I promised. For example, the relationship between the concepts human and black is universality and particularity in some respects. And the relationship between human and animal is absolute universality and particularity. As you see, the above division is dyadic and rational. So there is no fifth possibility for any other relationship between two concepts. So here is the pictorial representation of the relationships. To illustrate the four relationships, we can use two circles according to the following. As we can see above on the right side, meaning the right quadrant, we can see the relationship of heterogeneity. For example, stone and human. Wherein when we say stone, definitely it is not human, and when we say human, definitely it is not stone. And beside that, that is the left quadrant on top, we can see a relationship of generality and peculiarity in some respects. I said in some respects. Example is the relationship between black and human. As you can see, there is a commonality between the two, in the sense that some black are human, while some human are black. And the next one, below that one, still the left quadrant below, we can see a relationship of absolute generality. Example is animal and human, wherein animal is broader compared to human, such that human is a subset or within the animal set, in the sense that all humans are animal, but not all animals are human. And the last quadrant, the last relationship below on the right side, we can see a relationship of equality, wherein the circle of rational being and the circle of man is one and the same. When we say rational being, that is man, and when we say man, that is rational being. Okay, so let's proceed to the symbolic representations of these relationships. To represent any of the four relationships, we can use symbolic symbols. For example, double slash can be used for heterogeneous relationship, equal sign for equality, X for universality and particularity in some respects, and lesser than for absolute, lesser than or greater than for absolute universality and particularity. For example, human, double slash stone. Human being, equal sign, rational being. Human, X, black. Human being is greater than, is lesser than animal, or animal is lesser than, or lesser than sign, and then human. The above signs and relationships would mean no human is stone and no stone is human. Any human being is a rational being and any rational being is human being. Some human beings are black and some are not black, while some blacks are human beings while others are not. Any human is animal and any animal is not human, but some animals are human. Now, let's proceed to the last subtopic, which is about the relationships between contradictories of two universal concepts. When any of the four relationships is between two universal concepts, between their contradictories, there is a relation as well. Logicians prove any of the relationships with argument. We content ourselves with the above-mentioned relations and refer those who are interested with the classic book Al-Mantiq. When the relationship between two concepts is equality, essentially the relationship between their contradictories is also equality. For example, if rational being equals human being, it means to say that non-rational being equals non-human being. The meaning of the said relationship is, if every rational being is a human being, and if every human being is a rational being, then every non-rational being is non-human being, and vice versa. Whenever the relationship between two concepts is absolute
universality, essentially the relationship between their contradictories is the reverse of the same relationship. What does it mean? If animal is greater than human, it follows that non-human is greater than non-animal. The meaning of the above relationship is that if every animal is non-human, but every human being is animal, then every non-human is not non-animal, but every non-animal is non-human. Whenever the relationship between two concepts is universality and particularity in some respects, the relationship between their contradictories is either the same or heterogeneity, the opposite. For example, if bird is not necessarily black, it means to say non-bird is not necessarily non-black. If human being is not necessarily non-water, it means to say non-physical being is not water. The first one means that if some birds are black and some are non-black, and if some blacks are birds and some are non-birds, then some non-verbs are non-black, and some black and some non-blacks are non-verbs, and some are birds. The second one means that if some physical beings are non-water, and some are water, and if some non-waters are physical beings, and some are non-physical beings, then no non-physical being is water, and no water is non-physical being. Next, when the relationship between two concepts is heterogeneity, then the relationship between its contradictories naturally, expectedly, is either the same relationship of universality and particularity in some respects. For example, if existent is not equal to annihilated, it means to say non-existent is not equal to non-annihilated. If human is not stone, it means to say non-human is non-stone. Is not necessarily non-stone. The relationship between heterogeneous contradictories and contradictories of universality and particularity in some respects is called particular heterogeneity. Let us proceed. The first one means that if non-existent is annihilated and no annihilated is existent, then no non-existent is non-annihilated, and no non-annihilated is non-existent. The second one means that if no human is stone and no stone is human, then it follows that some non-humans are non-stones, and some are stones, and some non-stones are non-humans, and some are humans. So that's all about our lesson for today about the four relationships. So next meeting, we will deal with another topic. But for the meantime, let's take a look at the review questions. Or I would say prelectio questions. Something that you can answer before the proper lesson so that you could have a better preparation in grasping the nitty-gritty part of it. First, what are the possible relationships between two concepts? Name them. 2. Explain any relationship between universal concepts by giving some examples. 3. Explain the relationship between contradictories of two universal concepts by giving some examples. And then for your practical exercise, look at one page of a book and choose 20 concepts and discuss about the relationships between them. For our next lesson, we will talk about the 5 universals, inshallah. So for more similar contents, subscribe to Wayfaring with Mansoor channel. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.